Our pro-life groups condemn President Joe Biden's federal budget proposal. They are upset that it leaves out the 45-year-old Hyde Amendment, which helps block taxpayer money from funding abortions. Live Action President Lila Rose writes, forcing Americans to participate financially in the killing of preborn children is immoral and gravely unjust. We urge all of Congress, Democrats, Republicans, and independents alike to reject this budget and any budget that does not include basic life protections. Joining us now with analysis is Joel Griffith, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Joel, welcome back. Always great to see you. As we just mentioned, the Hyde Amendment was left out of the president's budget proposal. What are your thoughts on that, and does it come as a surprise?
Well, this is the first time in decades that the federal budget has not included the Hyde Amendment, which prohibits the federal funding of abortions. But if you look at the entirety of this budget, we know that it's unreasonable, it's unsustainable, it drives social programs into insolvency, and it actually fleeces some programs like national security that are of utmost importance to this country. If you look back, it took up until 2018 before we even had a $4 trillion budget. This budget is 50% larger than it was just a few years ago, and it is going to cement into place either higher taxes or the necessity for the Federal Reserve to print the money to fund this budget, which would drive up inflation.
Yeah, and let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's talk about the numbers. Overall, this budget proposal is $6 trillion, as you know, and would increase federal spending to levels not seen in decades. President Biden said he would not increase taxes on the middle class. So exactly who will be footing the bill here, and what impact will that have on our national deficit?
Yeah, this $6 trillion, it's hard to even get our minds around it, but $6 trillion is close to $80,000 per family of four each and every single year. Now, the president might promise that the middle class won't pay for this, but we know that there is no way that the wealthy alone can pay for all of this spending. It does include in the budget a dramatic increase in the capital gains tax. And that capital gains tax, even if it only impacts directly those who are invested, it'll have a secondary impact on all of us, because the way that our quality of life increases is by investors being able to actually invest in research and development and business opportunities. When you have the government taking away that capital, that's less money that's available to be invested. So long term, to pay for this, it's either going to involve dramatic tax increases, not just on the wealthy, but also the middle class, or alternatively, it would involve the Federal Reserve printing money to buy up government debt. And if that happens, you'll end up with longer term inflation, which is a tax on all of us, rich and poor alike.
And let's talk a little bit more about what is exactly in this budget. We know funding for things like infrastructure is included, community colleges, and universal pre-K, as well as funding to help combat climate change. That said, let's talk a little bit more about what's missing from this budget. And ultimately, Joel, do you think it will pass?
Well, what's missing from this budget is actually a real serious look at what's driving us towards national bankruptcy, and that's entitlement spending. We have these on a runaway growth trajectory, and ultimately that means that many younger generations that are buying into this now by paying payroll taxes, they are not going to see the benefits of all the money that they're forced to pay each and every year. And in the components that are within the budget, such as nearly $2 trillion in infrastructure, 90-something% of that infrastructure spending does not even go towards what we think of as usual infrastructure, like bridges, roads, and freeways. It is a massive slush fund for special interests, such as a Green New Deal. And we know what that looks like. The Green New Deal has been tried and implemented across parts of Europe, and they're paying dramatically higher electricity costs and other energy costs. That's what we have to look forward to here, and it's all included in this massive $6 trillion budget.
Joel, we have probably about 30 seconds left, but real quick, final thoughts.
Well, if Congress actually passes this budget, they are putting us further down the road to national bankruptcy. When you propose nearly $80,000 per year in federal spending, you either pay for that with higher taxes or by running up the printing presses for more currency. And if you do that, you end up with inflation. We're going to pay for this either one way or the other. This budget is woefully irresponsible, impractical, and unsustainable.
And we're going to leave it right there. Thank you so much, Joel. Joel Griffith, Senior Research Fellow at the Heritage Foundation. Thanks again.
Thank you.